Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in the first half of January this year. And this is going to be pretty short because I only have two things to talk about. One is a DNF and one is a reread. Unfortunately, the start of 2023 has been a little bit slow for me in reading books. However, I'm doing this mid-month wrap-up because I think that the second half is going to be a lot better for me. I have a bunch of books on the go. I just don't have them ready for this mid-month wrap-up, but I have a lot that I'm about to finish. So we're just going to talk about the two things that I did end up kind of reading and actually finishing in the first half of the month. The first one doesn't really even count as a finish because it was a DNF. So what I have learned is that I need to start the year with a reread because I've done that several years now and it worked out much better than this year. Anyway, let's jump into it. So the first thing I have to talk about here is The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This is the third and final book in the Queen of the Tearling trilogy. And the Queen of the Tearling is about Kelsey, who is a young princess who becomes a queen at the beginning of the first book, and she is trying to take on and tackle some of the corruption in her kingdom, but her kingdom is relatively weak compared to what it used to be, and she's trying to tackle all these problems, but she also has a lot of weaknesses because she doesn't have a strong army or a large treasury, so she's kind of tackling a lot of things at once. It's a pretty political series along with some magic and some really interesting politics, but I have spent too much time away from this series, basically. Unfortunately, this is going to be a DNF for me. I went back to reread the first book in this series, and I just didn't care. This is literally nothing against the series. I just think I have spent too much time away from it. I have tried to read it too many times that I just don't care. And I couldn't get back into the book. Didn't care enough to reread the first book, let alone the first two, in order to get to this one. And there's a very specific things that happens in this book. Basically, we're following a bunch of different points of view. Several are based in what is Kelsey's time, Kelsey's rule, and then there is always one that we are sort of flashing back to another time and another place, and that perspective in this book just killed it for me. I could not get into that perspective when I tried to just read this book, and then I kept putting it off till I didn't even care to reread the first book. So for this one, for me, it's just game over. Then my reread was Clean Sweep by Ilana Andrews. In this, we're following Dina, who is a young woman from Earth who runs an inn, and in this world, the type of inn that Dina runs is a magical sort of rest point. It's an inn, but it's also a magical point that aliens and different species from across the galaxy can come to rest, find sanctuary, and kind of as a pit stop between their travels. The rest of Earth doesn't know these inns exist, and it is Dina's main mission to provide these species a place to stay while also not revealing their existence to humanity. In this first book, she is danger comes to her basically in the form of a werewolf and some bounty hunters and vampires, and she has to figure out how involved she wants to get because innkeepers are sort of supposed to stay out of things, but she feels like she can't stay out of it because her neighborhood is under attack. I love this series so much. It's a novella series, so it's pretty short. I think this first book is super fun. It introduces us to the world and the characters and Dina's character so much, and it just is a fun, lighthearted series. I love the little bits of romance in here that we get. I absolutely love the Andrews world building style. I've talked about that so many times on this channel about how much I love how they build their worlds, and I think this might be my favorite mix of technology and science and magic in their world building. It might edge past Kate Daniels just a little bit because I just love how we have these like myths and things like werewolves and vampires that exist in our world, and we have these kind of explanations for them. I love it to bits. Dina's a great character, Sean's a great character, I love Arland, and it's just a very fun reread for me. So I really, really enjoyed this. And I listened to the audiobook for the first time, which I had kind of avoided because they're full cast, and they're also like dramatic versions, I think is what it's called, that it has sound and music and sound effects and stuff, and I thought that was going to be a problem for me, but I did actually really enjoy it. It's not my favorite. I would prefer just strictly narration, but it was fun and I did enjoy it. So I will be continuing my reread of this series on audio if I have time and if I can, because, you know, if it all works out, basically. Anyway, those are the two things that I wanted to talk about in the first half of January. Hopefully I will have a bunch more to talk about in the second half of the month, and I will also have stats and all those exciting things when I come back at the end. But that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me again, go ahead and hit that subscription button down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!